Captain America Brave New World flew into theaters this weekend, and I got some thoughts about it. Anthony Mackie reprises his role as Sam Wilson, the new and current Captain America after the mantle got passed down to him by Steve Rogers in Avengers Endgame. This movie could almost say is a continuation of the show Falcon and Winter Soldier, where Sam had the tumultuous task of trying to, carry the new shield and the mantle of Captain America after it was passed down to him from Steve Rogers in Avengers Endgame. And I think this movie does a really good job in the sense of continuing that part of the story and just showing what does Captain America really mean? Is it what you can do, or is it how you go about doing things? Harrison Ford also stars in this movie as Thunderbolt Ross, who is now, becoming like the active president in this MCU timeline. And I think with his performance, you kind of seeing like a little bit like more in depth of this character, what kind of drives him, what kind of motivates him. And I think they did a pretty good job, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, of what they did with his character. I want to start off with the story, which I think they were trying to somewhat capture, the espionage themes and vibes that, Captain America Winter Soldier started with, which was a fantastic movie. I hope you've seen that already. But overall, I think this movie kind of failed to deliver in a sense of what that movie did. Um, in terms of the overall like mystery, who's behind everything that's happening behind this movie. I think from the trailers, and then you kind of get a glimpse in the movie that you kind of are seeing what's going on. You kind of figure out what's happening, what's going on behind the scenes. Nothing is too much of a surprise, I would say, in that sense. Like I said, I think a lot of people have been comparing, this movie to Winter Soldier, when I do honestly think it probably should try to stand out on its own, which is almost contradictory since I'm, talking about that movie. But like I said, it's just a common thing. It's just a matter of the beast. So I think as a standalone movie still, it doesn't, pack that, Marvel punch that we got used to in the first three phases of a Marvel, but I wouldn't say it wasn't terrible. It was still entertaining. Anthony Mackie puts on a good performance as this character who does have this big weight on his shoulders of, like I said, carrying this mantle of Captain America. And we see some, dialogues with him and the president, also with him with himself and some other close confidence that he has about like the pressures, and does he have to grapple of whether should he have taken a super soldier serum or not. But at the end of the day, I think what they did with Sam is that they kind of made him in a sense being able to show like his capabilities and wits without having the super soldier serum. He has the aids of some certain technologies that you'll see in this movie, which I think they did utilize in some pretty engaging and unique, interesting ways. So I think on that front, we got to try to give them credit by making him a little bit different. Because if he did take the super soldier serum, not to say he would be just like Steve Rogers, he's still his own standalone character, but now we have this like new dynamic to the character, and how will he fare, going up against people that do have, particular abilities, and, you know, just kind of testing his overall like, strengths and resolves. I think Harrison Ford delivered a good performance. He was not phoning this one in, which I think, he was kind of doing in Indiana Jones, and how you've seen Harrison Ford doing some other movies, but really you could really tell that he's actually acting and giving some gravitas and some emotional beats in this role, which I'm very fortunate that he did. It just goes to show that Harrison Ford, he still got it. The man has still got it. And I think he's like 80 something years old, and he was able to deliver in his performance. So I think overall we could say that he did a good job in this front. We have a new Falcon in this movie. We didn't get like an origin story of like kind of like how they met, but they just kind of like jumped right into it, which I'm kind of glad that they did. We didn't necessarily need to get kind of an origin story of his particular character. But just from the get go, they're showing the dynamics between the new Falcon and Sam. And I think they did a pretty good job of like showing that you could tell they are comfortable with each other, they're friends, they got each other's back. But which leads me into my next segue. The jokes in this movie, obviously in the MCU movies, we're used to getting jokes. I think that these particular ones, I think they were just jokes that we've heard before in other movies. The banter, especially between the new Falcon character, some of them worked, some of them kind of were just a little just cheesy, generic, just something that like I said, dynamics you've heard between like, two buddies in other movies. So it just didn't feel, yeah, I guess maybe as authentic and just kind of forgettable in that sense. Now, in terms of the action, we do get a few good action scenes. I think there's a battle over the ocean that has to do with a certain celestial in the water, which I thought was really like engaging and how they did it and how you got these two characters, the Captain America and the Falcon, and how they're dealing with a certain conflict, but yet they have to go about it a certain way and not just brute force. So I thought that was really engaging. And then also, no spoilers, we know Red Hulk is in the movie. I thought the last battle, kind of showed Sam's intelligence in going about how this guy, especially he has no super soldier serum. What do you do? How do you fight against someone like the Hulk? And I think they did a pretty good job in that sense. But there were a few other action scenes, particularly I would say hand to hand, which felt a little, I don't know if I say CW-ish. They just didn't have, pack as much like weight or pack as much of a punch. The choreography was kind of off. It felt, yeah, I don't know, like they just got like they were like, hey, uh, we can't hire a fight choreographer, so let's just try to do the best that we can. So, like I said, some action scenes were okay, and there were some other ones that were, like I said, they just weren't it. They just weren't, as you would expect from a Captain America movie. And also with that too, some of the dialogue as well was a little bit clunky at times between, two or more characters. The main villain, the guy who you eventually find out is behind the scenes, is someone that you might not be too surprised is making a recurring role. He had a very interesting design, I would say, that they did with him. Um, I don't know if I could say I particularly liked it, but it could have been a lot worse if you know what this character looks like in the comics. So all I can say was that they did the best that they could with this character design. It's not particularly like my favorite, but it's hard to please, everyone when it comes to that case. There are some surprise cameos that, I was really happy to see. They're kind of touching in a way, and it kind of pointed back to some, previous movies and television shows um, that I thought they did pretty well. And overall, for the themes of the movie about, you know, are you good enough? And the themes of responsibility and doing the right thing, I can really tell that the movie was trying to do that. I just think that the packaging that it came in, it just it just didn't have as much weight in the hands of more competent writers, or like I said, maybe if the action scenes were a little bit more well developed, or certain, like the thriller, the mystery aspect of it, if that was done better, I feel like this movie could have been a lot more elevated than what it was. But overall, we just a decently entertaining Marvel movie, I wouldn't particularly say this movie was terrible. I've been seeing a lot in the media. People are like, a lot of people are bashing on this film. I think if you look at it as just going in as a generic MCU movie, you'll be entertained. You will be entertained. I can guarantee that. But I think, you know, Marvel has geared us up for initially with a lot of quality content, in their films. But as we've seen in this past phase, they've been missing the beat in a lot of different areas, just like, the Marvels, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and man, I just hope that in this new phase we get right back on track. We get those really good, engaging, stories, compelling things to really want us to get into the theater and be invested into this universe again. So overall, with this film, I liked it. It was good. It was a good, entertaining movie. But at the same time, this is one of those movies I don't need to watch. I don't need to watch again. I don't need to watch again. It's not in the very, very bottom of my, worst list of Marvel movies, but it's definitely below the middle, I'd say. It's just your average entertaining Marvel flick. And like I said, I think if you watch it, going with it in that mindset, you could be entertained as well. But I think if you go in with those expectations, typically of what you would have in a Marvel movie, then you will most likely be disappointed. What we have next is the Thunderbolts, and then we also have the Fantastic Four First Steps. And I think, and then from there, we're going to be entering a new phase for the Marvel movies, Phase 5. So, I just think overall, yeah, it's still worth checking out. But I'm very excited to see what Marvel's going to be doing and these next steps going forward, and if they can course correct to get back to the Marvel that we used to love and admire. Because after that, we got the next Avengers movie, and we still don't even know who the Avengers are yet. But from this movie, we at least know who probably might be leading the Avengers. But are we excited about that? Time will tell. But that's all for today. Yeah, if you like this review, please leave a like and subscribe. And thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate y'all, and I will see y'all in the next one.